Welcome to another episode of the Flag Stays Down podcast. Parker's off of hosting duties this week, so you got me again. Feel free to tune out right now if you want. This is Andy. We got a full house. Matt, Parker, in our season preview, pre-season ending episode. And boys, I watched the breaking competition at the Olympics, breakdance, and man, that Aussie chick, like that's exactly how Chelsea limped through this preseason. It's terrible, just terrible. But on that lovely note, Matt, how you doing?
Doing good. Doing good. Good to be here. It's been a kind of a on the go weekend, hanging out with family and doing a bunch of stuff. Went to State Fair again today. So that makes 3 times total for those keeping track at home. So it was just myself, my wife, my son, and my mother. So we just walked around and just kind of hung out. I had the crab cake slider for the third time because it is that good. So, but yeah, it was good. Did some yard work today. Prepped a bunch of meals for my wife because she started a new diet today. So I was helping her prep a shit ton of meals. But yeah, so little man's in bed and we're here. So all is good. Parks, how was the weekend?
Weekend was great. Had some family in town celebrating my wife's baby shower. So, wife's baby shower, but our baby shower. Although men typically don't get invited to these kinds of things. I got to man the grill. I got to run errands. I got to go get everyone's Starbucks orders. I contributed. I too started a new diet. It's the Topo Chico only diet. Just get all your calories from alcohol. No, for real, I ran 13 and a half miles over the weekend. So I feel like I get to consume now. So ran, did some stuff, opened a shit ton of gifts, and hung out with some family. So overall, it was a fantastic weekend. Lovely to see people, and lovely that a lot of people are cheering for Baby Gross and sent Baby Gross some gifts and take some stuff off of our list. So exciting times here at the household. Starting in about like 3 weeks, we're kind of just like shutting our doors and saying like no more visitors. We're not going anywhere. We got to get this house ready for a kid to be here, which is like that sinking realization of like shit's about to get real. So I know both of you boys have gone through this in your life. First go around for me. So we're gonna get ready and we're gonna take it step by step. But starting to get real and it's starting to feel fun. So we're excited, man. Looking forward to it. But overall, it was fantastic. Collins, I know you had a big weekend.
Yeah, oh yeah. But hey, just to top off your point there, man, it's gonna be a blur. So I know it's stressful, but enjoy it. But no, it was well, it was a blur, a stressful weekend. No, there was no new child in this household. In fact, this household is off the market. 48 hours, got an offer, accepted, good to go, move out in 2 weeks. Very excited about that. So went to the Ford Madison game last night, celebrated, had a couple of hopscutioners, enjoyed a couple kind Oasis seltzers today. It's been a stress-free weekend and really enjoying it. All right. Well, boys, there was football. We're not going to talk about that football because we got other shit to talk about. Transfers being the big one. I don't know if it's like the theme of the pod this week, but stuff seems to break right before we go live or as we're potting. And today it was that Joao Felix might be coming to Chelsea, courtesy of Fabrizio Romano. But let's talk transfers in general because we had a confirmed one this weekend, and that's Pedro Neto coming in from Wolves for 60 million euros. Boys, how do we feel about Pedro Neto?
I feel like this is going to be a theme, so I'm just going to go ahead and say it. We already have the largest first team of any team, I think, on God's green earth. I think last time I looked, it was like 45 players we have, like part of the first team. Why are we adding another? Like, we have people we can't even get rid of still on the books. And now we're adding more. I don't mind Pedro Neto. I like him. I like his style of play. I just don't know where he's going to fit. That's kind of the biggest thing, right? Like we're getting a bunch of attackers, but we already have a bunch of attackers. Where's he going to play? How much is he going to play? Is he actually going to be worth the 60 mil that we just paid for him? I just have a lot of questions around why we're signing certain players. Do I like him? Yes. Do I think he can help us? Yes. We're getting to a point where there's way too many mouths to feed. And I don't know what that's going to look like from a team standpoint. I don't know how Maresca is going to handle all of that. I guess we'll have to wait and see, but it just seems like we're adding and not getting rid of enough. We're just constantly in a surplus, and we're just kind of throwing people to whatever team or league will essentially take them. And I don't think that's great for their long-term development or anything like that. We always joke about the Chelsea loan army, and it's getting bigger, as if that was even possible.
I'm excited about him. I think he does improve our team. And I think he's the first signing that we've made in this window that is going to get significant first team minutes. I think he's going to play above Sterling, and I think he's going to play above Mudryk. So I think day one, he's your starter on the left wing. So I think he is finally like a big improvement, not necessarily a big improvement, but an improvement of what we had. And I think Sterling has been rumored to be out, which I know we'll touch on. And Mudryk has been inconsistent, to say it lightly. So he hasn't been like the lockdown proven left winger. I think it's an area that we needed to get better at. And I think Neto does that for us. So a lot of the signings that we've made this year, Matt, I 100% agree with you. It's surplus at positions that we didn't need surplus, and it's guys that I didn't see making a ton of impact for us. Neto is the exception to this rule for me. He finally is a guy that's going to contribute for us. I hope he's a starter. I hope he's part of our best 11, because I think he'll be part of our best 11. So I think good signing, kind of a shocking signing, kind of came from nowhere, which was pretty awesome to get surprised in this kind of a marketplace with constant media. There wasn't a lot of build up to the Neto. It just all of a sudden, bang, Neto news drops, and then like 3 hours later, he was confirmed by the club or something crazy. So exciting to see it go down that way. It kind of felt like Cole Palmer, where it was a hidden secret for a while and then kind of just drops on everybody's head. So this one excites me. This one I'm excited and fired up about.
Yeah, and I don't think Neto is being brought in as a squad player. I don't think he's being brought in to fight for minutes. I think this is the start of getting people out who aren't going to be able to fit into Maresca's system, people that Maresca doesn't want, people who haven't carried their weight over the last couple of years. I think this triggers Raheem Sterling leaving the club, and for as well as Noni has played in this offseason, might be him going, might be Mihailo Mudryk going. It all kind of depends on what that next signing is. But I like Neto. I think he fits the system a little bit better, than a Raheem Sterling or Mihailo Mudryk would. But again, he may be forced to move to the right. Palmer more central, depending on if that other signing from Atletico happens. Joao Felix, would probably be on the left in that scenario. Neto on the right. And honestly, I'm for it, because what this has done, in terms of building up the squad and all that, is a lot of these guys are now being flipped for profit. There's talk of Carney Chukwuemeka being sold for 20 million euros or 20 million pounds. That's a profit on what we bought him for. Omari Hutchinson brought in on a free. What do we get? 35 million for him? Georgi Petrovic, if he leaves, is going to be a surplus there as well. So I think there are negatives to having such a large squad, but you got to bring in the people that fit your system, and you can deal with everybody else later. And we've seen this time and time again with new coaches, is you got to bring in your guys, right? You got to bring in guys who you want, and then you get rid of the surplus after that. We still have a couple more weeks of this transfer window being open. I think there's going to be a lot more outgoings than there are ingoings here. But Parker, like you, I'm excited for Neto.
So I have a question. I don't want to derail the entire conversation. but Collins, just something you said, I brought a question into my mind. We've talked about bully regime, right? And how they're buying players for the future. And, we talked about this with Poach about, are they actually buying players to fit the system, or are they buying players that they basically want, and then the manager has to find a way to make them fit within the system? Do we think that things are changing with Maresca? Do we think he has maybe more of a say than previous managers have had? I'm curious to know kind of what your thought is. Like, are we starting to see that shift, or is this just one of those things where, let's use Mikhailo Mudryk, for example. Like, we went out and got Mudryk. Is he really a guy that fits Coach's system, or was he just a young talent that we wanted to have? Just as an example, I'm using Mudryk, but yeah, it's probably not the best example, but just as an example.
No, and I think that's a fair example of somebody who doesn't really fit any system we've had so far. Doesn't fit Potters, doesn't fit Poch. I think honestly he does fit Maresca, but he needs to, I don't know, something needs to click with him. But back to your original question, I've been wondering the same thing, and I look towards quotes from the managers. I look toward, point A, I looked at the contracts, which was on a 2-year contract, a 1+1. There wasn't faith in him from the start. Maresca's on a 5+1. So I think he's going to have a little bit more say just based off of that contract. But second, you look at how both managers have addressed the whole transfer and sporting directors and all that. And Poch was like, oh, that's what he wanted in his contract, is more say in the, in transfers and all of that. Maresca has come out and said, yeah, I'm involved. It's like every manager's involved in every transfer. Like, we give them a list of who we want, or profiles of what we want, and that's what they go and get us. So I think there has been a shift, but I don't know how much Graham Potter was backed, in terms of his system. But looking Poch to Maresca, I think it's more of an issue of they didn't trust Poch to begin with.
The vibe I get too is it didn't seem like a lot of what Poch had to say was heard by a lot of people, and he made do with what he had. And I think he did a pretty good job of what he just kind of given a collection of pieces and making something of it. But yeah, it doesn't seem like his voice was heard when he wanted some certain transfers or whatnot, and system players, whatever. So it feels like it's shifting. It might be a kind of a collective, we can't do it that way as an ownership, and we can't be that stingent as an ownership. We have to get the manager involved somewhat, but now we've got a guy that we like more and wants to play more with us, so it might just be a more harmonious relationship overall. I guess we'll see how some of these things play out though over the next couple months in the season.
And kind of playing like devil's advocate, I wonder if this is like, okay, we're still going to sign whoever we want, but we'll throw you a bone and get you somebody who will probably meet your system. So I wonder if that's kind of maybe like a just, hey, here's a little piece that you still have a little faith in us. But I don't know, it just seems interesting, just kind of the way that we've gone after talent in the last 2 years, and then we get these occasional kind of like, yeah, here's somebody that can actually like help your team now, not 5 years down the road. And we haven't seen a lot of that. So I think any news that comes out like that is usually pretty surprising. So I'm just curious as to if we think this is just more of a shift in ownership thinking, or if it's Collins, like you said, to your point, we found a manager that they trust and they're willing to maybe give a little bit more say in kind of what goes on behind the scenes.
So if you were devil's advocate there, let me play purgatory advocate, kind of the middle ground. I think it's divided into two pots. We've got two sporting directors. I'm not correlating this at all. I'm just throwing out there. There's two sporting directors, which is weird. You've got a whole team that handles the loans and the development. You've got a whole team that handles the first team operations. What if it's a little bit of both? What if there is a, hey, Enzo, who do you want for the first team? What profiles do you need to help you now? We can go out and find those players. And then there's also the, hey, what investments can we make? What cheap, young South American wonder kids can we go after that, hey, cool, if they pan out, that's great. But if they don't, we're going to flip them in 3 years for 3 times what we paid for them. I think part of it's a business and part of it is helping the first team. And I don't think that's been a consistent since Clear Lake took over. But I think this summer it's kind of showing through there, going out, signing Dewsbury Hall, getting Neto, but also going out and buying 7 keepers under the age of 18. What's his name? Omari Kellyman, where I don't even know where he's been, but he was our first signing this summer. So just stuff like that. I think it's a little bit of a column A, column B.
I am all for like playing the lottery ticket game and selling young South American talent for profit, as long as we then because I feel like in this new financial world, you can't just go out and buy whoever you want, whenever you want, no questions asked. You have to be more strategic about how you make purchases and sales. So if we want to play make money on all the players you want to make money on, great. But then it needs to then command, go out, swing your big balls and buy fucking players that you want. And the thing that has upset me in this transfer window is it feels like we've just bought a bunch of mid-tier players, 35s, 40s players, which might work out in the end, but it's a bunch of players that I don't see a ton of utility for. And again, we talked about this before. We have real need. We have need for elite players at elite spots or at spots that don't have elite players. And that's where I've been sort of most frustrated by this transfer window.
Yeah, I get that. But I think part of it is we are just now getting out of FFP hell. How many hotels was it reported that we had to sell last year to clean the books? And now I looked at this year's net spend, and we're even after Neto, we're in the green by 4 million. So I think this has been part of the plan all along, is make it sustainable in the fact that these young talents that you bought, you're then flipping at 2021 when they're still young, still have potential, people still want to buy high on them. And then that funds your larger transfers, that funds Neto. And again, we're serious talks, Fabrizio commentating on it, that we're interested in going and getting Joao Felix for 40 million. Osimhen is still on the table. We know his value is somewhere 80, 90 million. I think all of these little ones that have been so frustrating are the things that are now funding these larger ones.
Which is fine. I just would rather don't spend 30 on Dewsbury Hall and don't spend 40 on Joao Felix, and go get the Oshimens. Go get the Oshimens of every position. Don't dick around with the little ones, because I don't think Dewsbury Hall impacts our team at all. I think he's a squad player, and I think he's going to fight like hell to even get minutes in garbage time. I don't think he impacts us a lot. I think we're very deep at the position he was brought in at, especially considering Lavia has done a lot this preseason for us. So I don't want Dewsbury Hall. You can keep the 30 million and put all of that towards Osimhen, put all of that towards Alphonso Davies or whoever. Just go get bigger players. Don't spend the 30s and 40s right now. Go get young and flip. But I don't think Dewsbury Hall is a flip. He was on a 6-year contract and he's a 24-year-old player. He's not a buy and hold flip kind of a player. Seems like a squad player. So those are the ones that upset me.
So let's flip to the sales here, because that's the other thing. We'll get into Joao Felix and Osimhen in a little bit. But a couple rumored sales. There's talks of Raheem Sterling to Juventus. Talks Carney Chukwuemeka on Crystal Palace. You've had some other interest. Again, I mentioned earlier, Noni Madueke reports that him or Sterling or both may be out the door. Trev, Armando Broya, etc., etc. Out of those, which is the biggest loss and which is the biggest gain for Chelsea?
Biggest gain is getting Raz off the books. I think that one's kind of a no-brainer. He's been consistently inconsistent throughout his Chelsea career, and he's not producing for what we're paying him. So I'm fine to see him out the door. ironically enough, I think the one that may hurt us is Trev. We don't have a legitimate center back pairing right now. He's in the conversation. He's been at the club. You know, and Collins, I know you're going to hate this, but we talk about a guy who comes up through the club, right? You need somebody who understands the Chelsea culture and stuff like that. He's one of your only guys left, him and Reese, right? Like you need at least one, maybe two people that can kind of help with that. If you have Malagusto on the left, you know, then if you need somebody to slot in at right back, if you need it, like Trev can also play that. We've seen him do it pretty well. I think he can do a lot to help the team. And I know he was out for a good chunk of last year, but even when he did come back, he looked very solid. So I think he might be kind of one of our under the radar biggest losses if it comes to fruition.
I agree with the Sterling, although he was probably one of our best players in preseason. So it's kind of funny, but I think with the bringing in of Neto, Sterling becomes complete excess. And yeah, Matt, I just brought up our salaries and our active roster, and Sterling is still at the top, tied with Rom, of course. Who could forget about Big Rom? At 325,000 pounds a week. He is our tied for highest paid player. Yeah, that money can be put to much better use. Sterling just does not perform at that level. He never has for us. And biggest loss, I would really hate to see Noni go, because I think Noni has a place in this team still. I think Wright is still completely up for grabs. I think Neto on the left and Noni on the right makes a lot of sense for your wingers. So if he's not getting like consistent first team minutes, I think he's a guy that plays every other and plays as a sub for most matches. It's a position I think we need, and he does something that not a lot of players on our team can do, which is take people on one-on-one. I know I had this debate with you. I can't remember, Matt, if you were there for it, but like Noni creates assists even though they don't get recorded as assists all the time. Like he puts balls on plates with his crosses and his cutbacks and things. He probably created 8 or 9 like legit assists. Like if you're looking at expected assists, they'd be a high number. Whether or not we finish them is up to our finishing, which is suspect at best always. But I think he does a lot. I think he's a guy that gets consistently double teamed when he takes people on. We don't have a lot of guys that get consistently double teamed. I just think like brings a lot. He is a one-trick pony. I agree. I understand his flaws and his setbacks, but I would be sad to see him go because I think he's got a bright career at Chelsea still. I think he plays a big role for Chelsea still. Creates goals, creates assists, does a lot for us.
So I like Raheem Sterling is the biggest biggest gain, but just to be different, I'm gonna go Armando Broya. You know, he's a guy we have on the books who played, 100 minutes last year, loaned him out to Fulham, where he was supposed to be guaranteed to get minutes and didn't feature. And so, there's reportedly clubs interested in, 25 million, 30 million. For cool. That is a steal. So I think that's a big gain right there. Biggest loss I got, it's Carney. I think he has the biggest upside out of anybody on this team. Matt, like you were saying with injuries, right? Prior to his injury, he was balling out, and then a couple times he came back after that, balling out. And he's what, 20 years old? Wanted by Barcelona, wanted by Arsenal, which would, my God, that would be a stake through the heart right there. But I think this kid has all world potential. And so to see him go for what, 20 million euros is a joke. Not a fan of that one. All right. Now, in terms of those players brought in here, we got 2 more that are allegedly in the cards, and that's Joao Felix and Victor Osimhen. So out of those 2, we'll do the opposite. Which is the biggest gain for Chelsea, and which would be the biggest loss?
Biggest gain, Joao Felix. I think the biggest loss is going to be Victor Osimhen for one very particular reason. He doesn't perform, he is going to be hated immediately. There is a lot of pressure holding the number 9 position on a Chelsea squad. There are a lot of expectations. And if you do not live up to those expectations, you will hear about it. I think if Osimhen doesn't perform, that is going to be a tremendous loss for us, because that will be another high profile, high money striker that did not work out for us. We've been through this story more times than any of us care to admit. Joao Felix, he's already been here. This time it would be a permanent. He's still 24, just entering the prime of his career. He needs a change of landscape to kind of reignite his career. We're talking about a kid who was, what did we look at, Parks? It was like 100 mil. That was his transfer value 3-4 years ago. If we can get him for 30, 40 mil on a permanent, he's flexible enough to play different positions in the front. Given our, I wouldn't even call it recent, given our very long history of injuries, he can play wherever and slide in wherever he needs to. So see him as a big win. I see him with a lot more potential than.
Take the inverse of that argument, partly to be different, but that's what I would have picked had I gone first too. So I think obviously Osimhen's the bigger name signing, the more expensive signing, the more risky signing, just with our history. All the points you made, Matt, are completely valid. We have had trouble with the number 9 position. Whether or not they even wear the number 9, it doesn't seem to matter, right? It's whoever is our striker. Jackson got more shit than anyone, and he had a decent season, especially considering his age and experience level. So someone who is big name, who has a big target, big price tag on his back, coming in that position historically has not gone well for us. I do think, though, that it's a position that we have a great need for improvement versus where I would see Joao Felix coming in. Not so much. It looks like he plays mostly as a secondary attacker or number 10 kind of position. I think we have an excess of players there. My favorite being Christopher Nkunku, who I would play over Joao Felix any day of the week. Left winger he can play, but again, just signed Neto. Don't think he plays over Neto there. Understand the argument to throw Neto then on the right, but I don't love that look for us. So I don't see Joao Felix fitting well with the way the team is currently set up. I think there's a universe where he could have fit well had we kind of shifted some pieces around, not had some of the pieces that we have. But considering who we've purchased and who we have on the roster today, I think Joao Felix is completely a quid pro quo. Let it go. They need to get someone off the books to sign our guy. So I want all of it to fall through because I want my guy back, as I made very publicly clear last podcast. I'd rather have Gallagher back. I don't want to see him go there. And again, it's players that I would just prefer to have on my roster versus we have to do this song and dance selling game of get Gallagher off the books and then take some of their excess off their books for them. The Samu deal seemed like it was, and now even more so when the Samu deal falls apart. Now we're rumored to another player. Seems like they're desperate to get someone off the books. If they're desperate, then we should be able to kind of like steal it. And the Joao deal is above what transfer market has him pegged up from a value standpoint. So I would rather steal him for 15 million pounds and clear some of their room for them and give them some relief that way, but not pay in excess of what he's worth on paper, especially considering I don't love full transaction of what's gone on there. But overall, I just don't see where Joao fits in our system. I thought he fit in better when he was here 2 years ago, where he could play in the middle of the park. One of the biggest fears I have with him is his tracking back ability and his defensive ability. I think he's great on ball. I think he's great creatively. But like that's where I put like an Enzo, and some of those guys were pulling the strings types of players, Cesc Fabregas type players have that. So I don't know that we need more of that. We need more definitive players, better on ball, good off ball defenders, kind of playing system defense, pressing high, and going from there. So Osimhen's the easy answer just compared to those two. Coming back just because it's a great need for us. It's one of the positions that we need a lot of help in. So anywhere from mediocre to great, I would be happy with coming in.
I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I agree with Matt wholeheartedly. Victor Osimhen, yes, is going to come in with a lot of expectations, especially the anticipation, considering we've been rumored to be interested in for the last 2.5 years. He is doomed to underperform. Just looking through his season by season numbers, he has surpassed what Nico Jackson scored last year once. And that was his big season where the $100 million price tag came on, where he scored 26 goals. I'm not convinced on Osimhen. Watching him play for Nigeria, he hasn't done much there either. I think he was about a 3-4 match goalless streak there. Yeah, a guy that you bring in for big money as a number 9, who has one good season under his belt, and that season was 2 years ago. I'm not 100% sold. Now, I think he does have the ability, but I have my doubts. So he would be my biggest loser there. Joao Felix, I would argue, fits a bigger need than the number 9. I think a lot of people are hating on Nico Jackson, but dude scored goals, and he's young, and he has improved year to year. I know we've only had him for 1 year, but just looking through his career progression, he has improved. I think he's due to improve again this year. Our wingers have been on a steady decline. Mudryk still hasn't been able to figure it out. Raheem Sterling is out the door. Pedro Neto, I think, slots right in. And then you got Noni Madueke, who I don't think has the attitude. I was going to say he's one of our bigger gains selling if we get rid of him, but he's got some personality issues. Blames his teammates a lot. If you remember, Poch left him out of the squad for about a month because he broke some team rule. I think he's got some growing up to do. And so I don't think he is necessarily a great fit at the moment. So that gives you an open wing position. Joao Felix is somebody who can play on that left wing and somebody who can score from that left wing. He's not a creator. He's somebody who is more direct and somebody who will shoot. He has more shots per game than any one of our wingers in the past year. I think that fits a big need. You're getting a second consistent winger, because we know what Chelsea FC looks like when you have one wing that you rely on. Down the right every single time we had that free. Down the left every single time we had that free. It didn't work. Balance. Everything's about balance. Joao Felix would be a big sign. All right. Well, boys, what do you say we talk a little season preview?
Let's do it.
Do it.
All right. So every year we've got our nominations, our awards, whatever you want to call them. Where we finish, what your top 4 is, top scorer, assists, player of the season, et cetera, et cetera. We'll go through those now, and then we'll revisit them at the end of the year and see how close we actually were. So we'll start with, where does Chelsea finish this season?
Go ahead. You can start us off.
All right. I'm going to say back in 6th. I don't know if I don't really have an explanation. Just that gut feeling for me, 6th place.
8th.
And I had it written down. I said 7th, so we are sort of in alignment, all in a row here. I think we do take a step backwards from last year. I thought that would happen the second we got rid of Poch, that we would take a step backwards. We kept Poch, I think we would have gained on what we had, and I thought the second we got rid of him, we would take a step back.
All right. So with us not proceeding or progressing into the top 4 here, What is your top four? Parker, we'll start with you.
In no particular order, I have City.
Give me a particular order. Come on.
In particular order. Okay. I've got City, Arsenal, Liverpool, United.
Matt?
I'm gonna go City, Arsenal. I'm gonna go Aston Villa. And I'm gonna go Newcastle.
That's amazing because that's your top four from last year, just with a couple flipped around there.
I
Newcastle
think,
mainly because of the kits, right?
of course. I think Newcastle strictly because they're not playing Champions League. I think that's the big thing. They can be focused on the Premier League. We saw the impacts to them. And I say what you want about him. I'm a huge fan of Unai Emery. I like what he's doing over at Villa. I'm a big fan of it. So give me Unai Emery and Villa.
Well, I'm gonna complete it here and say City. We've all got City winning the league. Arsenal 2. Third, the next two pain me. Spurs at 3. If you talk about squad stability and building into a system, I think that's going to be an issue this year now that everybody understands what Ange is talking about. I'm going to go West Ham 4. Good, smart signings by them this year. All right. Next up is top scorer. Matt, we'll start with you on this one. Last year, you had Ben Chilwell as the leading scorer with 13. Where are you going this year?
And Chilwell, run it back. I don't know. I feel like there's going to be so many different goal scorers this year. It's not going to be the Cole Palmer show now that everybody knows who he is. And if you don't know, you do know. I don't know, pick anybody in the front. Like that's, and so I have a hard time with this. So,
Not for Nico.
no. Give me, I'm actually, you know what? Fuck it. I'll take Cole Palmer again as our top scorer. Only because of penalties.
Well, ballpark, how many goals do you get?
21.
What did Palmer have last year?
25.
Somewhere in there. Oh, yeah. Oh, shoot,
You
I
have it
deleted
out.
that
You-
column from last year. So
I think when I looked at it, it's at 25.
We got Collins.
I'm gonna stick with my pick from last year, and that was Nico Jackson. I thought about Mark Gu, but I gotta go to the safe choice. I'm gonna go Jackson with 18.
And I am sticking with my pick from last year. So I think if he wasn't hurt, he would have been the leading goal scorer. But it's Christopher Nkunku. I think he's got 20 in him. He's going to be the backup penalty taker too. If Palmer's not out there, I think he's taking penalties. So he'll get some from that. But I think he's going to pop up in spots and put balls away. You're going to have a lot of creativity on the wings to get balls in the box. I think balls will follow him.
So assists. So who's setting up those goals? Parker, will start right away with you.
Enzo Fernandez, not Maresca, of course. Put him at 12.
All right. Matt, how about you? Ben Chilwell, say it.
Not for Chelsea. I'll go bring him back. I'll go Reece James.
Solid choice. You going a nice 12 with him too?
I'll say 11. because I think there's going to be a lot of distribution to go around.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Enzo. Reece James is already hurt. Otherwise, that would have been a good shout. I'm gonna go Enzo. Parker, just so I can, beat you on a tiebreaker. I'm gonna go 13.
It's like over-unders on that then, yeah.
All right, so we've got our top scorers. We've got our top assisters. I'll start with the next one. That's player of the season. Um, Matt, I had your guy Ben Chilwell last year. Saw how well that worked out. Man, player of the season. Can Cole Palmer match what he did last year? I'm not sure. I'm gonna go Cucurella. Parker, you had Enzo last year. Where are you going?
It's not Sanchez. I can tell you that much. It's not going to be my player this season. It's probably not Nico Jackson either. It's a tough one for me. I like your Cucurella pick. I think Malo Gusto deserves a shout, but I don't know that. I think it's gonna be Caicedo. I think Caicedo like really like came into his own back half of last year, and I think he's gonna be one of those players that like we can't imagine playing without him next year, kind of a guy. I think he's just gonna be like that fucking solid and just that good. It's just gonna make a lot of things tick for us. So I'm gonna say Caicedo, even though Matt will never vote for it because he doesn't appreciate that position. Which is fine. Just facts.
All right, so we know Matt's not picking a number 6 for his player of the season. Matt, where are you going in with that?
VAR.
Jamie Vardy.
And
Anthony
spoiler
Taylor.
alert, that's also going to be my man of the get the fuck out of here. I'm playing
Anthony
both sides
Taylor.
of the coin. No, Anthony Taylor's permanently on that list. I'm also going to say, Parker, I like where you were going. I'm going to take Malo Gusto. That's the first name that popped into my head, especially, Reece already injured. You have Cucurella on the left. Chilwell, speculation is that he's probably out the door. Viega, he has been playing. I don't know if he's ready for this yet. I think Gusto is going to see a lot of minutes, and especially with him, if he's running that inverted wing back, I think he's going to be a lot more crucial, and I think we're going to get a lot more out of him in that role. So I'll take Malo Gusto.
So, young player of the year. This one's always interesting through the age of our squad. We'll go.
Does Cole Palmer count? Is that?
Oh, shit, that's a great question.
Is it young player or first year with the team?
That's the next one. This is young player. I'll start because I've already got mine in mind. Mark Goo. I think he's gonna come on, handful of times, maybe half the season, late for Nico Jackson. Bags 5 to 7 goals over the course of the year. Probably racks him up in the conference league, but no, I think he's an easy pick.
I like Goo. I don't like if we sign Oshiman, I don't think he stays. So I don't think he makes the roster if that's the case. But besides the point, I like that pick. I'm going completely out of left field here because I don't know that this is a guy that's going to feature a heck of a lot for us. But I'm going to go with Cesare Cassidy.
I completely forgot all about him. That's a decent shout. He played under Enzo last year.
It's a dark horse pick. And I don't think he featured a lot in preseason for us at all, if at all. But I think he's still on the squad. I think he's still on the roster. And I think when he came in on last year, I just saw a ton of composure for him. He was a bit of a Gallagher comp. So he gives us a little bit of that high press, high energy, but calmer on the ball kind of a guy. Still young, still raw. But I think he gives us a different look. So I'm gonna say he plays some bigger minutes for us this year.
I'll take the new boy, who also happens to be a U21. Take Viega. I like him just being kind of the primary, left back sub for Cucurella. I think he'll have enough time to get his feet under him in the Premier League. So I like it. I think he's gonna
All right. So Matt, this is the second of the two, and this is newcomer, first year players. We'll let you start on this one. Who's going to take that home for you?
Pedro Neto.
Yep, that's me too.
Oh man, that's what I was thinking too. But I gotta think outside the box, and I gotta commit to somebody who I said was brought in to be a starter. Andre Sen. No, I'm just kidding. Kieran Dewsbury Hall. I think he's going to play a lot of minutes, especially knowing Enzo Maresca and the system he likes to play. He's going to be almost Thiago Silva-esque, but in the midfield. That killed Matt with that comment.
Thank God we're recording. I can't wait for end of season.
I think I'm going to
I
make
take
that.
award.
I'm going to make that our first video clip to put on social media. Is your reaction to that? Make a GIF out of it.
Thiago Silva-esque. Fuck out of here.
Our fucking Rolls Royce you're comparing. Damn it. Collins with our man of the get the fuck out of here award.
I was gonna say on that note, who's your man to get the fuck out of here for the year?
You.
I'll start, and it's funny because I had this written down before you fucking said it. Dewsbury Hall is my get the fuck out of here award. I didn't want to sign him. I think he's going to completely underwhelm. I think like when he came on our first couple of preseason matches, people thought he looked all right. People thought like, oh, this guy can do some stuff. I think that's going to wear off really, really quick when we start facing Premier League opponents. I think he's going to get in the Premier League. I don't think he's going to feature very much at all for us. I had us I had the number at under 6 starts for us. And I don't think he plays a prominent role for us. I think he's a complete waste of money. I think he's a Maresca guy, but he's my like, what are we doing kind of a signing. And I stand by that. So he's my get the fuck out of here.
I love the turn that Parker has done over the summer. Mr. Rational to Mr. Emotional. I'm digging it.
You said it best when you said this is my villain origin story. You're goddamn right it is. I'm sick of what's going on. I wasn't happy. Not now, but every chance I get, I'm gonna show you why I was right.
Get you a cameo in the multiverse. You and Paul Mullen.
Heck. Love that.
All right. Mainly get the fuck out of here. Last year I had Cucurella. Now I have him as my player of the season. So who can I give good luck to this year? I'm gonna go out on a limb. Do I want to do this? I'm gonna go Enzo Fernandez. I think something happens where he doesn't live up to the price tag for a second consecutive year, and shit starts going south. I love Enzo. He is one of my favorite players, but I think he is primed for something to happen.
You're just trying to use reverse psychology on him?
Maybe. Matt, you had Raz last year.
I'm just doing this just to piss off Collins. Give me Bobby Sanchez. I wanted him gone last year. I want him gone this year.
I mean, if he only plays 5 games, kind
I'll
of hard to
take
win that
Kepa
award.
over Bobby Sanchez.
All right. Well, on that wonderful note, the last category, most divisive player. the player who most divides the fans over the course of this year. Parker, we'll start with you. Last year, you had Milo Mudryk.
I truly believe it's going to be Enzo Fernandez this year. I think Enzo Fernandez is going to divide a lot of people because of what you just said about him, because of his price tag, because that role can be underappreciated. I just think like people are going to be calling for his head, and in a crowded midfield, people are going to wonder if other combinations are going to work better, if he has an off game or if he has kind of a thing. I'm with you. I love him. I think he's going to flourish. I really think like he's got a chance to really have a breakout season this year and be one of the best players for us. I think he's going to be quite divisive. I think when you search Chelsea Twitter, his name is going to be up there first. So he's my divisive player, even though I'm on the pro side for him this year, not necessarily the con.
Matt, you had Conor Gallagher, another good shout last year. With him out the door, where are you going?
Does it have to be a player?
I mean,
Nope.
I'll take the other Enzo. We all know the scenario. You come in and coach Chelsea, you better produce results.
yeah, fair. I kind of feel like that would have been Parker's choice as well. Divisive. Either Enzo. Man, yeah, I had Cole Palmer last year. So again,
He was unidentified last year though, so like that kind of counts as a bad take, but it wasn't. You said like new transfer day sign. You didn't know who it was.
True. But who can I bless this year? I'm gonna go Robert.
Start with Bobby Sanchez and work your way up.
That's exactly what the fuck I was gonna say. Stop stealing my thunder. I think there's gonna be people like me who are saying, "Wow, he's having a great year," and then there's gonna be people like you two numbnuts saying, "Oh no, get him out of here." Yeah, I think as long as Robert Sanchez is playing, he will be the most divisive.
Because he isn't good.
All right. Well, look forward to this entertaining season of the Flag Stays Down podcast. Boys, any closing thoughts?
I want to throw one out there, and this is going to be newer categories. It's going to be complete speculation, whatever. What's going to be the biggest? What's going to be the, or let's call it just a take, something that we think is going to happen that nobody's going to see coming. I'll start. Reece James is sold after this season. I think you start hearing the rumblings. I think if he goes through another injury-riddled season, Chelsea are going to cut ties with him.
My hot take is that Dewsbury Hall starts less than 6 matches, but I think I don't necessarily believe this to be true. But if we're going off the wall takes, I'm going to say that Chelsea's defense finds a way to concede far less goals than they did last year. I think that we shore up our defense in a big way because I think we have to. Like, I think the focus internally has to be around defensive numbers and less around attacking. And so I'm just going to say the bold take that people didn't expect would be that we shore up our defense in a bigger way, even though every trend would tell me the other thing would be true.
I think the biggest story that we will have to deal with this year is a late season relegation scrap because of a 40 to 50 point deduction for the infractions that we self-reported. I feel like the Premier League is going to continue to push off Manchester City's until they cannot anymore. That puts us next on the docket. We self-reported. We've been cooperative. but they're going to want to say, "Ooh, look at us, we're tough. Look what we can do." So we are going to be in a situation like Everton, where dock points put us right in the scrap. That, I think, would be my biggest story.
That's quite possible, probable to happen too. I mean, they're cutting down, or they're clamping down on this. How many teams got Everton, but more than just Everton got infractions issued against them last year too, right?
Forest, and then down in the championship, Leicester.
Teams are serving punishments for this. It's not just like a hypothetical, theoretical thing anymore. So absolutely could be us.
On that wonderful note, boys, we've reached the end of our podcast here. So make sure to subscribe, rate, review. Make sure to check us out every week to catch us on our bullshit or give us props for some of our amazing hot takes tonight. You can follow us on social media at flagdownpod. You can always leave us comments like Scott and Hector did earlier today in regards to their preseason predictions. So make sure to go check those out. But yeah, make sure to drop us a line at any time. Boys, it's been a pleasure. Cheers, and we'll talk next week.
Sounds good. Later.
Hey, buddy.